Good day everyone, my name is Salas, and for this video I'm going to tackle the chapter 5, which is law on sales, agency and credit transactions. For our outline, contracts of sales, second special sales, installment double sales, redemptions, third agency contracts, fourth credit transactions, loans or mortgages, fourth case studies and conclusion. We have here the learning objectives. First, describe and explain the nature of sales transactions. Second, identify the functions and the operation of agencies in the industry. Third, identify ways of handling credit transactions. So for this chapter, we are going to explore the legal aspect of sales, agency, and credit transactions within the tourism, travel, and hospitality industry. First, law on sales. Introduction. The chapter defines a contract of sale as an agreement where one party agrees to transfer ownership and deliver a specific item, while the other party agrees to pay a fixed price in the money or equivalent. The chapter delves into various types of sales transactions, including absolute and conditional sales, and explores the legal implications and remedies available to parties involved. The characteristics of a contract of sale. First, consensual. Perfection occurs through mutual consent with few exceptions requiring written agreement. Second, bilateral. Create a reciprocal obligation for both parties. Third, principal. Stands independently without needing another contract. Fourth, unanimous consideration for each party is the delivery of the item payment of the price. Five, commutative. The value of the thing delivered is considered equivalent to the price paid. 6. Nominate, designated as sale under the Philippine Civil Code. 7. Transmissive of ownership to seller, transfer ownership of the item to the buyer. Next, requisites of a contract of sale. First, consent requires a clear meeting of minds regarding the item and its price. Second, object or subject matter. The item must exist or be possible, legal, and clearly defined. Third, cause or consideration represent the motivation for the contract, with the price being the seller's consideration and the item being the buyer's. Next is effect of loss of the object in a contract of sale. 1. Loss before perfection. Contract is inexistent with the seller bearing the loss. Second, loss at the time of perfection. Contract has no effect. 3. Loss after delivery. Buyer bears the risk of loss as ownership is transferred. 4. Loss after perfection but before delivery. Seller bears the risk of loss as ownership is not yet transferred. Sale of personal property payable in installments. Article 1484 of the Civil Code defines the remedies available to the vendor if the buyer fails to pay installment. Requisites. Contract must be an absolute sale, not a contract to sell or a loan. Item must be personal property. Sale must be on an installment plan. Double sale. Article 1544 of the Civil Code addresses situations where the same property is sold to multiple buyers. Ownership transfer depends on who first takes possession in good faith for movable property, who first register the sale for immovable property, or who presents the oldest title if no inscription and no possession. Pacto di retro sale, conventional redemption. Article 1601 of the Civil Code defines the sale with a right of repurchase by the vendor with the redemption period of 4 years unless otherwise agreed upon. Vendor's rights. The buyer acquires title and possession subject to the vendor's right of redemption and can dispose of the property. Obligations of the vendor. Delivery. Place the item in the buyer's control and possession. Transfer of ownership. Transfer ownership to the buyer. Warranty against eviction. Protect the buyer from being deprived of the item due to a prior right or the vendor's actions. Warranty against hidden defects. protect the buyer from hidden defects, rendering the item unfit for its intended use. Obligations of the vendee: accept delivery and pay the price, accept delivery and pay the price at the agreed time and place. Actions for breach of contract of sale: extrajudicial remedies, buyer's right to withhold payment, reject improper deliveries, and suspend payment if ownership or position is threatened. Seller's right to withhold delivery if the buyer hasn't paid. Judicial remedies, buyer's right to seek damages for breach of contract. Seller's right to recover the price and seek damages for bad faith. Warranty in case of eviction. Definition: this is an implied warranty in sales contracts, protecting the buyer from being deprived of a purchased item due to the prior right or the vendor's actions. Requisites: the buyer is deprived of the whole or part of the purchased item. The deprivation is by a final judgment. The deprivation is based on a right prior to sale or an act imputable to the vendor. The vendor was summoned in the eviction suit on the instant of vendee. So, sa aning nga part is nagtalking about not just about the buyer but the vendee or the vendors also. So, I have been reading all the necessary things or necessary information for you to understand what are the differences of being a vendee, being a vendor, and being the buyer. So, if moingon ta nga, if you're a vendor, you have also the right. You have also the right to complain about your customer, but remember that you should always reconsider or consider the feelings of other people, the feelings of your customer. And in terms of being the customer, if for example the item was delivered and the item is not the item that you have ordered, just give it back to the driver or just talk to the owner that they delivered the wrong item. Not necessarily nga imo silang kasukan, imo silang yaw-yawan because they have also the right. So being customer, we need also to consider people who deliver the item that we have ordered to us. We shall also be responsible and we shall also reconsider their feelings because they are just a delivery driver. So for the next, the liability for evictions. Consequences: the vendor is responsible for returning the value of the item at the time of eviction, returning any income or foods the buyer had to surrender, covering the cost of the lawsuit, reimbursing the expenses of the contract, paying damages if the vendor acted in bad faith. So in terms of vendor, so there are always consequences if you did something wrong. So if we all vendors, they already know what are the things or the bad things or the good things. So if they choose bad things, there's always a consequences. But if they choose the good things, it has also a good feedback or good outcome for your actions that you have made. So what I have read earlier are the consequences of being a vendors who is not responsible or who are not responsible for their job, who are not responsible for bringing happiness or bringing the good items to their customers or clients. So there's always a consequence after your actions. So for the next, warranty against hidden defects, rehabilitory definition. This protects the buyer from hidden defects in the item that existed before sale, were unknown to the buyer and render the item unfit for its intended use. Buyer's options. Action rehibitoria, withdrawal from contract. The buyer can cancel the sale and get a full refund. Action quantum minores, price reduction. The buyer can demand a proportional reduction of the purchase price. Prescription. The buyer has 6 months to file a claim except for defects in animals where the period is 40 days. So earlier I have talked about the vendors or the vendee, their rights and their what are the bad things or the good things that they need to do, and they don't need to do. And for here on this section, I'm going to talk about the buyers or the client that will going to buy or have a transaction towards the vendors or the real estate. Number two, law on agency. Introduction. This section examines agency contracts where one party, the agent, acts on behalf of another, the principal, with the latter's consent. The chapter highlights the importance of agency in the hospitality industry, where travel agencies, event organizers, and other intermediaries play crucial roles. So the characteristics of agency contracts: consent, express or implied agreement between the agent and the principal. Object, execution of a legal act on behalf of the principal. Representation, the agent acts as representative of the principal. Authority, agent must act within the scope of their authority. Distinct between agency, list of work, or services. The key difference is representation, which is central to agency, while employment is the basis for list of work or services. Liability of principal and agent. Agent acting in own name, the agent is directly liable for the third party except when the contract is involved principal's property. Disclosed principal, the agent is not personally liable for the contract. Case Estela L. Crisostomo versus Court of Appeals and Caravan Travel Tours International Incorporation. Nature of travel agencies. Travel agencies like Caravan Travel are not common carriers as they do not undertake transportation. Their rule is to make travel arrangements for their clients. For example, agent versus principal. Caravan Travel acted as an agent for the airline, where Estela ultimately contracting for her carriage with the airline. Case China Airlines versus Daniel Choik. Liability of ticket issuing airline. The ticket issuing airline, CAL, is considered the principal in a contract of carriage, and it is liable for the actions of any endorsee, airline, or PAL. Single operation. The contract of air transportation is treated as a single operation regardless of endorsement. Independent contractor. Definition. Independent contractor performs work according to its own methods and it's not subject to the employer's control except for the result of the work. Requisites. The contractor has substantial capital or investment. The contractor employs platform activities not directly related to the principal's main business. The contractor exercises control over the performance of its employees' work. Labor-only contractor. If the contractor fails to meet these requirements, it is considered a labor-only contractor, making the principal employer responsible for the employee's wages and benefits. Liability of principal agent. Agent acting in own name. The agent is directly liable except for contracts involving the principal property. Disclosed principal. The principal is not personally liable for the contract. 3. Law on credit transactions. Introduction. This part of the chapter explores credit transactions, including loans, mortgages, and related legal aspects. Loan contracts. Comodatum, a loan of non-consumable property for a specific time to be returned. Mutum, or simple loan, a loan of money or consumable items with an obligation to return the same amount, type, and quality. Interest. Article 1956, interest is only due when expressly stipulated in writing. Legal rate, 12% per annum under the usury law applied in the absence of a stipulated rate. Bank deposits. Article 1980, fixed. Savings and current deposits are governed by simple loans provisions. Debtor-creditor relationship exists between a blank and depositor. Real estate mortgages. Mortgage. Definition: an accessory contract securing the principal obligation by subjecting real property or rights as security in case of non-performance. Requisites: security for a principal obligation. Mortgagor is the absolute owner. Mortgagor has free disposal for the property or is legally authorized. Property can be sold to pay the obligation upon maturity. Subject matter is immovable property or alienable real rights or on immovables. Chattel mortgage. Definition: a contract securing an obligation using personal property as unsecurity recorded in chattel mortgage register. Pledge: delivery of the movable property for the creditor or a third person instead of registration. Deficiency: creditor may file a separate case to recover any deficiency after foreclosure if the principal contract is not a sale of personal property payable in installments, distinct from the real estate mortgage. Subject matter: personal property for chattel, real property for real estate. Registration essential for validity in chattel, only for binding third parties and real estate. Foreclosure procedures different for each pactum commission. Definition: it prohibits stipulation allowing the creditor to automatically appropriate the security upon non-fulfillment of the obligation without foreclosure procedures. Article 288 expressly prohibits pactum commissioners. Case: Don Juan Borrowing Bank from the Philippines Island. Pactum commissiorum. The stipulation allowing the bank to automatically appropriate the car upon non-payment is considered pactum commission and is prohibited. So lastly, in conclusion, so again, as the vendor, vendee, and the buyer, you need to, before you take an action, you need to make sure if that transaction has a right process or in under the legal process in order for you to escape the consequences of your actions. And also, I hope you learned something on this video, and I'm hoping to see you on my next video. And thank you and goodbye.